Lauder will be issuing some books of his from time to time that you haven't seen, and I assure you that every one of them is very important. He says things that may be new to some of us, and he says things that he has often said, and he repeats from a different angle. He was about a perfect teacher for a certain kind of person, and he never left anything hanging, and he always came back to it. He cleaned it up, drove it into you. I never studied anybody but Joel, and it didn't seem necessary. I may have read, I read a lot of things, and I read every religion, and I admired them all. Every chance I'd get, I'd read a book on Hinduism or Maui. There's big statues of the Buddha. The Karmapa once visited there. Took my bedroom away, but he came with 50 people, and I was in his bedroom, and the person I was with kept sending me notes every day. You got to get out to Karmapa. He's the second man in Tibet, and I'm going to get out. I said, any day now. Finally, on the day I was supposed to get out, I think my things were still in, and she could have put them out, but she didn't. And I missed him by about an hour. He didn't have a quarter to live, and he took, what I had. I wondered why the second highest man in Tibet was traveling around the world, and he came to this house. Why he stopped there, I wondered. Shortly thereafter, I understand he left the world. I guess they got another second highest. But I didn't detect anything in him that was, something that would live with me and I'd think about. It was a face to me, nothing else. I wonder how much of the Orient got the message we're getting in the infinite way. I realize that we can't look down at another teaching, and don't think for a minute I'm looking down at their teaching. I'm looking up. But all the chants that I hear around, and I hear a lot of people in Buddhism, for some reason the inner circle of Buddhism never appears. All I see is these outer chants. And it's nice to be amused, but I don't know where they're getting with it. It's 10 years and 20 years later, they're still doing it. And it's like they're trying to drum something home. But I don't see what they're trying to drum home. If I say to one of them, who might be high, when you're invisible, how does it feel? Well, what's that? So I wonder what they're learning. I shouldn't be saying that because it's a sort of a criticism, and yet it's not a criticism. I wish they would open up and learn. I think you don't know it yet, but one day you're going to realize that this class has been very different. We didn't start out slow and build up to it. We didn't say, no, now this is so, and therefore this is so. All these niceties we eliminated. We had a knock-down, drag-out class purposely. I want it to live with you. I want you not to forget it. I want you to be acting immediately from that standpoint. And you'll understand what I'm saying when you come to a crisis in your life, and you're going to have to solve it. And there's going to be something in you that wants to get out and push and drive and everything. The thing we haven't stressed, which has to be stressed, don't exercise your will. That's a horrible thought for some of you. Do not exercise your will. If we gave a whole class on eliminating your human will, it would do a world of good. Because every person has intelligence, and he wants to use that intelligence, and he's told, be still and know the truth. Well, how will I know the truth if I don't use my intelligence? That's a natural question. Well, we don't use our intelligence. We use God's intelligence. Be still and know the truth means listen to God. Well, he won't tell me what to do. I've tried to listen, he never says anything. I'm still at a quandary what to do about this and that and the other thing. You've got to come to the place where you're getting divine advice, divine wisdom. You cannot do it with your intelligence. That's a come down for you, but it's a come up for the self. We cannot get into heaven with human intelligence. There's no way. And if we're not trying hard for heaven, we might as well quit anyway, because that's where we're going, or we're not going anywhere. There's only one place that you go after this world. That's on your way to heaven, or go back and start over and try again. And I'm hoping that we'll meet again. And you know where I want to meet you. There are certain fundamentals that we're going to come out of this 8-class seminar with. And one is that truth is right here, and it's demanding that you open up a way for it to come out. That you do something that you don't normally do. How can I let the truth of God out of my system? Well, you know, while I was worrying about this one day, and I think that's what made this a special seminar, I was asleep maybe at 11, 12 o'clock. I go to sleep early, but anyway, I turned around and there was a man in my bedroom. I was flabbergasted. I wanted to call somebody and say, hey, you know, somebody in here. This wasn't at the hotel. It was at home. He didn't say a word. I thought maybe I'd ignore him, maybe he'd go away. So I turned over. And I peeked back. He was still there. Well, anyway, I figured there's only one thing to do. I'm going to face him. I still hadn't said a word to him. I'm going to face him. So I turned around to face him. There was no one to face. He wasn't there. So I thought about that. Not that night. I said, oh, that's fine. I'm glad he's gone. I didn't like anyone to come in my room. And I was asleep in 10 minutes, but I was bothered. I hadn't been drinking wine or anything, you know. So what was this? Do I have apparitions? Am I that old? I began to wonder, what in the world happened that I started thinking that way and saw a man? Come to think of it, he was about 15 years old. And very smooth. He had a white body. It was a white body right there. So I went to sleep. I discovered it was Joel. We said nothing. The lesson was obviously given to me. The lesson on the entire seminar, the spiritual body. Learn about it. It's the basis of living on the higher levels. Your spiritual body, incidentally, comes from the 6th level. It's going to marry your soul on the 5th level. That's what the mystical marriage is. Your spirit and your soul. You've got that to look forward to. Anyway, that was my experience, and it was brief as that. I have the corroboration that it was Joel. I know it sounds weird to some people, and it'll be picked up, and they'll say, oh, he's pretending, and they often say that about some of the things you say. And you wonder why you say them yourself, but they're given to you. At any rate, Joel has been responsible for the seminar, not me. I can guarantee it. And I think in books that come out that haven't come out yet, even though he wrote them some time ago, you'll find traces of this that haven't been in the previous books. Keep your eye open for it, will you? Because I think that's what happened. Now, when Joel comes, he doesn't come as Joel. He doesn't say, here I am, I'm Joel, and I want to do this. He just comes. He comes like a young angel of the next world. I presume that's what he is, the young angel of the next world. I presume that was the form I saw of Joel in the next world. Only the next, not the 6th and the 7th. Not that he can't go there, but what he has to do, he's doing. Probably teaching. Meanwhile, we hear the fact that we are noticed, and I mean noticed, it says something to us that our path is very special. The ways we open up, the newness of our teaching. In the old teaching now, it's been here sometime since 30 or 40, and something new is coming into it now. Something very vital. Because what is a spiritual body? Just think what it is. It's the body that has been on the earth and in heaven since who knows when. It's always been here. And you have always had it, only you haven't been a realized being. Now this body is going to play the most important part in our life. I don't know if there's 100 billion trillion or if it's endless, but everybody has that body, the same one. And you can't operate on a higher level without that body, because you can't operate on this level without this body. And on the higher level, that's the body. You are actually saying, I'm through with this body now. When I move up, the only way I can live is to have a body. And it won't be this. Material bodies are as obsolete as the last year's 1933 Fords. And that's a funny thing. Come into a strange world and we watch civilization run by and we suddenly discover something that's outlandish. There is no civilization. What a dream. Amazing. We've all been living that dream. And you can't shake it because it's you. So how do you shake it? You've got to get to the core. You can't shake this with your mentality. You can't say, I'm not this, I'm something else. You can say it. But you cannot realize it with your mind. Your mind goes as high as this fourth level and it stops dead. You got to live above the mind. Now, it's not good for tax purposes and other things to live above the mind. So people don't. I can't have fun, the usual fun that I want to have, above the mind. The mind is a useful commodity. And a certain mind is a Phi Beta Kappa mind, and a certain mind is, goes to Rhodes Scholar and so on. Fine people, but doggone it, that mind can't go with you. So now we're in the process of becoming a child again. A total child. And we understand some of the things that Jesus said, ever the child shall lead them. Things that didn't make sense to us, But he's turned it around. So we go to this soul body, which is the core of spiritual living. And it's called a spiritual body. This was taught to some of our students, and I asked about it. I said, I think maybe the soul spiritual body is unknown to some people. One man told me yesterday, what is that? I said, I just felt like a strange person with someone who's in our work so long saying to me, what is that? Well, I asked someone who's been in the work sometime since, she said 28 years, so 22 years rather. I said, didn't we talk about soul bodies in this? Yeah, she said back in Catalina, I think, at the beginning, you discussed soul bodies, but you haven't been back to it, spiritual bodies, since then or something. At any rate, it's a spiritual body that makes you part of God's universe. Until then, you actually don't live in God's universe in your consciousness, only in your sense of consciousness. Material living isn't in God's universe. You can see that arms are cut off, organs inside become dead. It's not God's universe. Don't pretend that it is. And don't make excuses for God not taking care of things, because God only takes care of things in reality. And what isn't God's universe isn't reality. And the universe of God, the fifth and sixth and seventh levels of consciousness. When you see somebody whipping a dog or somebody whipping a man who they think should get it, and another man drunk, and all the odd things you see on this earth, and when you become part of some of those things yourself, you say, where's God? Why are we left in this position? Well, why don't you get in God's universe? We don't recognize our own hypnosis, that's all. The mental hypnosis of the human race, which is so total, is completely unknown to the human race. It is under hypnosis. It sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? Well, you've been under hypnosis. You're only coming out of hypnosis as you learn the truth, as you learn the spiritual content of your life. Everything that is not spirit is imperfect. Whatever is imperfect is not a God creation, and therefore is not real. Take everything in your life that's imperfect and look at it. Anything. What makes it imperfect? Does it last forever? No, it's not perfect. Isn't that strange? What doesn't last forever isn't perfect. Does it work always? No, it's not perfect. Well then, when things happen to you and prevent you from working correctly, what about you? Not perfect. Are you God's creation? No, you are not God's creation. There's no one on the earth created by God. It's a strange statement. And yet, the invisible of that person is the God creation. The invisible of you is a God creation, not the visible. That's why some faces are long, some are stout, some are short, some are ugly, some are rather nice looking, so forth. The variety isn't for our sake. It's just the way mortal mind works, the hypnosis. Actually, you're a perfect being. There's absolutely nothing in you that isn't perfect. Trouble is you're not visible. Now, we take the universe out of the invisible. That's the first time you take and work the universe over and try to understand it. Turn ye. What a strange statement. Turn ye and live. I didn't know what to do when I first saw that. It sounded nice. It makes nice rhythm and pretty clever and all that, but when you examine it, what does it mean? Turn me and live. So I turn, and I look at the same sights. All right, it must mean something else. So I try to turn my consciousness around. But I can't turn it to the invisible because I don't know the invisible is there. But then you get to your approaching the end of material consciousness and the beginning of spiritual consciousness, and to turn ye from material consciousness, seeing the wood, the steel, everything that's visible in this world, turn to spiritual consciousness. And now the words finally take shape. Turn ye and live. And of course, as you turn to the spiritual consciousness, and that is living. Of course, it's a little spirit and 99% matter, then a little spirit and 83% matter. Matter decreases and spirit increases. But there's no increase in the spirit, there's just an increase in your intake. It's been always there, 100% of it. I think at this level of this teaching, it's a go for broke. It's not a halfway teaching. You can't be comfortable in it and say you'll get a nice little niche and it'll go at that. This is a go for broke teaching now. We've let in the total truth, and you either go all the way or you don't go at all. I'll admit you can live in a comfortable way and know a little bit of it. You can get by. You'll get a lot of problems, but you'll be able to handle them, and you'll get by. You'll get out of this world pretty well, and you try it the next time, and finally you'll get to the truth and want to study it. Now I'm talking to people who have made up their minds where they're going. The others will have to study something else, that's all. But the ones who have said to themselves, wherever God wants me to go, I'm going. That's as simple as that. And I'm not making up my own mind. Turning myself over to God. I'm living in God's universe, and I'm living the God life. Now what'll I do, Father? You know he won't turn you down. Anyone who says, what will you do, Father, for me? What do you want me to do? Instead of, what can you do for me? Is going to get a hearing. What do you want me to do? And that's what it's all about. What does God want us to do? How do you know? If I asked you, or you asked a child, what does God want us to do, do you think? The child might give a better answer than some adults. The child will say he wants us to be good. He wants us to, well, obey him. You know, things like that that indicate he's thinking right. But basically what God wants us to do is be like God exactly. You are the image of God. There cannot be a thing in you that isn't the image of God. That's why you can't have any crime. You're the image of God. It's very hard to make people perfect. Perfection is so elusive. But when we are given the weapons of the Father, and we've been given every one, and we have to work at it, of course. You have to think you're going through hell sometimes to get to heaven. But the way, for one little ounce of a second being told that you're going the right way, everything you've done doesn't mean a thing. I'm going the right way. Just a little glimmer of hope always. And when you find a reward, even though it's minor, just a reward to say you're going the right way. There's nothing can stop you. You're going to keep on that road. Once you feel you've got someone who is listening to you, someone who's watching you, and that's what we feel in the Spirit. In fact, you get a quick reprimand if you know you're wrong. And a quick congratulations when you have managed to fall into the right rhythm in the right place. If I were teaching a child, and I'm not, so I maybe don't know what I'm talking about when I say so, but what I would do, I'd give that child the options. Whenever in doubt, I want you to listen to God. I'll teach you how. You listen to God and see what God tells you to do. God tells you to do something, do it. I think maybe as he grows up, or she, or whatever, there would be a sort of a, between them, a byplay. He or she, the child, would be turning to God, and that would solidify. In fact, by a certain age, the child would know that when I want something that God doesn't want me to have, he lets me know. And when I'm on the right track and he thinks this is good for you, or when I'm not on the right track, he pulls me over to where I should be, I get that help. Now, if every child would get that help, can you imagine what would happen? I think that help is available. Just that we haven't really trained the child to listen to God. That's because we haven't listened. So we're going to get into the habit saying, Father, you told me to turn and live. Well, I'm willing. But when I turn, there's no one there to help me. I need your help. I want to follow your instructions. The Father will tell you, you just follow my instructions, you'll get the help you want, whether you You know it or not. There'll be someone there you don't see waiting to trick you and show you the right way from there. And I believe it. I believe God leaves nothing to our imagination. Everything is covered. So when we plow in right where we think we should, even though there's nothing there, whatever must be there will appear. It's a miraculous world. Now the Father says, in your spiritual body, everything is perfect. You won't get any cuts, you won't get the cold, you won't get this and that. And if you do get those things, just figure, I'm not yet in my spiritual body, because those things won't happen in it. The spiritual body is capable of things that you're not capable of right now. But that's not tomorrow, because tomorrow you might be in awareness of the spiritual body. Now, if a person is not living in the spiritual body, there's nothing you can do to bring into your life the divine law. Divine law only functions in the spiritual body. You know, it's not very difficult to live in it. In fact, some of you live in it very well right now, but aren't even aware of it. That's why you're walking around so nicely and getting things done. You're getting invisible help because you have found the spiritual body. And when you become more conscious of it, you'll realize what happens. The spiritual body responds only to God. It cannot respond to what they call a devil. It cannot respond to an evil impulse. Even if mortal mind comes through you and says, do this, do that, tries to get it every way to get you interested. It can't come through your spiritual body. I think the prime ambition then is to build your life pathway with anything that is necessary that indicates it's the road to heaven. This road has been traveled in all the books and all of the fairy tales, but it's a road, all right. It's an invisible road. And we can all take it. And I, for one, I don't know any other road in the world. At least I don't want to know. We've got to go that way. So let's say today, right now, next hour, how do I break down my life into something along divine lines? Well, for the class, we'll say, I'm learning divinity or the nature of divinity. Then I'm going to go home. I'm going to be on my own. Will I respond to the world? It tells me what to do. Or will I say, wait, let me dwell in the Spirit. Let me listen for the voice. Let me find what the Father has. That's the first decision. Am I going to live in the world, or am I going to live in the Father's instructions? instructions may not be very exciting, whereas the world will offer all kinds of excitement. But always reflect on the source, which is the divine source. Now I want to go a step further. I'm living in the divine source, I think. Shall I speed it up? Can I? Do I have the right to? What do I do to improve the source, its capacity? And the answer is you answer that question automatically by the amount of attention you give it. If you want something to happen in the source that isn't happening, it's because you're not doing something in the reception. You're only listening half time. You got your other half out in this world. You're doing something that is not letting the full flow come through. You want to try an experiment? You want to write me every month for a while? I'm suggesting you do, if you want to. I'm suggesting in 1 month you send me a letter saying, these are the signs that I have found the path to the spiritual body. This has happened, that's happened. This isn't much. I know it's just a promise, and this and that and the other thing. But whatever you tell me, just tell me truly. Don't boast about it. Don't feel bad about it. Just tell me truly. This is what is happening. I'm getting this closer to it, or I'm discouraged. I find that I can't break through with it. Whatever it is, in 1 month, you put down on paper a page or two. Doesn't have to be long. Just contact. Let me know what you're doing, if you're succeeding, if you're finding the path is open, if you're finding it closed, what the obstacles are. Well, in no time we can have it straightened. That's what I think. So now you're invited to do that, and I wish you will. I'd like to get that letter. Sign your name so I can read it. And if I can, I will, if I find that suggestions flow, I'll send them gladly right away. I want you to do it. I want to feel. I want to watch you grow. Whatever success I have in this work is on the growth of the student. I want you to grow. If I don't get a letter, naturally, I can't help you at that time. You're going to leave here on Monday. That's today, isn't it? And whatever the date is, 1 month from now, you ought to put the letter in the mail. Nothing happens. It's been dull, or wow, or something like that, you know. I'll get a lot of letters from people who are really going. On that day or that week, that mailman ought to be awfully busy. As far as I'm concerned, that'll be the most important mail there is. Because each one is a future heavenly inhabitant. I will only get letters from people who are on the way to heaven. If I told that to the postman, he would know what I'm talking about. Let them keep alive the idea. Now let's get back to that spiritual body, because that's what's going to get you there. Your spiritual body is there, only it doesn't sit down and write letters. It isn't going to say, I've been here. The mortal consciousness is going to write the letter, but it's going to tell me about its divine nature, its the growth of it, the development of it, the ideas that are ahead and luring it in. Then it's going to tell me about some ideas that I've been wary of, and I would like your opinion. This is the turning into, the turning from this world, and living involves living in a different world, a world of perfection, a world where everyone who lives forever, not because a human being said so, because the Father said so. A world without crime. And there is such a place. A world where people do not eat up each other with desires. Funny thing, we're not even going direct to heaven. We're only going to the first level. Got a little section of it. You will wander around there in your soul. You'll still have a spiritual body, but you'll know it better. You'll understand it better. Just to refresh you right now, it won't be your personal property. It's everybody's personal property. Everyone is in that spiritual body. Everyone who realizes that I'm in it is in it already. You'll be going to a spiritual body which is inhabited by your parents, your grandparents, and everybody who had preceded you on the road to heaven. And it'll be easy to reestablish how silly we've been in certain ways. We could have gone a certain other way. I hope you realize that this is a very serious undertaking, that we treat it lightly in words only. It's a serious undertaking. But there is no opportunity that can equal it. It's an inevitable thing. If you get there in 1999, or you get there in the year 3099, it'll always be the same. You won't find time after you come out of this parenthesis. look at the name now, parenthesis. You understand it a little better? Parenthesis in eternity. The parenthesis is what? How many parentheses have you been through? On one level, you've been through almost 4. Each world that you've been in has been a parenthesis. And when you go to the 5th level, it's still a parenthesis. It won't be getting to the final until the 5th world soul of you looks out and sees the spiritual body of you and says, oh, I had a glimpse of that on earth, but nothing like this. And when those two are wed, your spiritual body and your soul, both of which one has the capacity to know everything, one has the capacity to reject everything that's imperfect. When they are wed, we leave that till they are wed. Because we're all Christ in the making. And maybe we have found that this is what we've had in mind by the Father, that this is the path. It isn't reading a talk in a church, sitting down and agreeing with somebody who says something, and I'll be back next Sunday. It's not like the church service. This is totally between my soul and my spirit. They're getting acquainted now. In the form of Jesus, that the spiritual body is perfect. The spiritual body is perfect wherever you go. It never is seen. It's always you might call underground. That isn't where it is. The spiritual body is everything there is in God's universe. The Christ had a spiritual body. This was why they didn't recognize it. They wasted their time trying to crucify him. This is why everybody thinks they can do this crime and that crime. They're not injuring the spiritual body at all. It doesn't even get involved in human problems. When one army walks over another army, we think there's a terrific slaughter. It's not exactly a movie in Technicolor, but to someone in the 5th world, this isn't even seen. And we think it's a ponderous thing with armies attacking armies and bullets and bombs. It is not seen above the 4th world, because it isn't happening. I suppose there was this plan that if we give them a place where they can do anything they want to do, they'll get it out of their system. And that's about it, you know. By the time we've got through the 4th world, we've got it out of our system. Now, if you started out and had a little talk with God, to the say somewhat like this: Father, I realize I've got a perfect body. I realize I'm going to have to learn how to let it function. I don't think I can give it vitamins and help it. I don't think I can give it liquor and hurt it, because it doesn't do anything in a material way. But I want to get into understanding it and living with it, letting it flourish, letting it teach me. I've got to live the God life. And the Father will say, well, I have a son on earth. I call him Jesus. You find that whatever he does, if you sit down and think about it, and then don't think about it, let your soul wander slowly over the things he says and does, here and there you'll get an idea from what he says. Sometimes he's very specific. And if you will follow it out, you'll find that you're working closely to that type of life which gets you through without the hindrance of a physical body. He's showing you that everyone has a spiritual body, by the way they all recover in his healings. When he takes a dead man and he takes every kind of ailment and shows its nothingness, it's because its nothingness is the fact that it is not in the spiritual body. In the spiritual body you don't have cancer. You don't have any of these ailments. The only reason people have these ailments is because they're living in the hypnotized body. You're living in a state of hypnosis. And it's important for you to go through that hypnosis, get the stuff out of your system. If you didn't go through that state of hypnosis, and I made you perfect, or I permitted perfection, or I somehow did not interfere with perfection, you wouldn't have anything to compare it to. You wouldn't even know you had a perfect body. At any rate, the plan is to let you mature from the zero stage to your present level. Now maybe you're a very smart fellow and you know what to do about things, but you still find that you're not in a body that's free. This body is hemmed in by a certain thing called matter. It's hemmed in by space, by time. You can't go up in the air. You can't go down in the earth. You're limited to a little level, and you're limited to 2 feet. Your breathing is hopefully pretty good, but it's not so extraordinary that it doesn't give out one day. Has a little trouble on the way. I don't know why we didn't know it, but why couldn't we have said, now, how could God make this inferior product? Everybody who manufactures is proud of their product. How come God isn't? And God would say to you, well, I didn't make that product. Don't you see how it wears, how it ages, how it slows down? You buy an imitation all the time. In fact, I can't talk to you, you're hypnotized. Nothing can get through to your mind. Nothing can get through to your soul. Now when Jesus comes to you and does some miraculous thing, you say, look what he did, how wonderful it is. He's just exposing reality to you. Reality to you is a miracle. But reality is exactly what you are in reality. I think what we have to come to then is the acceptance that the Father is the perfect creator. And whatever is not perfect is not created by the Father. Whatever does not function perfectly, whatever is in some way in need of repair at some time, whatever ages, whatever is deficient, anything that we see that is not perfect cannot be from the only one who is the Creator. So you see, when we accept this world as it is, say this is that way and this is that way, I'm going to clean this up, but this is all right here. And we don't know that we are under a state of hypnosis. We don't know. Things look normal to us, that's fine. And that too is a state of hypnosis. You look at your face today and you say, oh, how lovely I am. No wrinkles, bright outlook. Then you turn and look at your parents, and they're beginning to get a few wrinkles, and you wonder, I guess that's the way everybody goes. But they don't all go that way. Nobody goes that way. This is the human scene. This is not the divine scene. The divine scene has no aging process. Mentality, appearance, all of it part of one cosmic hypnosis. You're not at all like you look, you're not at all like you act, you're not at all like you think. Eternity. And I think at this time, to learn that we're not what we look like and what we think we are, and I think that's what I'd call a godsend. Because if we were, and if we were exactly like we look and like things seem to be, wow, what a universe it would be, with just a part-time universe, good and bad, evil, kinds of negatives running around and overcoming the positives. One nation overcoming another nation. I don't know, our suspicion of this not being God's universe would have been very accurate. So now from this day forward, although we've done our best up to now, we're going to do better. And I'm going to try to live in the right body, which automatically, when it's the right body, is living in the right universe. So all I have to do is correct the body. Now this body thinks that there are problems with the body, and it's thinking with a mind. I'll have to look at that mind and see in the Bible that same mind was telling other people in the Bible that something is wrong here, something is wrong there, you've got this and you've got that. That human mind. Now I'm going to have to look at that mind and realize even a good human mind is hypnotized. Even a top-grade human mind is hypnotized. I bet you the smartest man in the world doesn't know he's hypnotized. He thinks he's a man. And if he looks around, he can realize that he's a good man. He thinks a lot of other things that are not, but he thinks they are. Now, hypnosis leaves nobody out. Everyone is under a state of hypnosis. The sweetest, nicest people in the world are hypnotized. Your mother, your brother, your father, your sister, and yourself. You all think you're human beings. And you cannot find one human being on the earth if you can, you've made a big mistake. Because that one human being you find someday will be a dead human being. You realize what we're trying to do? We're trying to get into a special little group of people who are aware of what God says is true, or are able to live somehow under the laws set by that particular deity. They're trying to get into a little group that is permanent, that never loses identity, that never gets old. And our authority for it is Jesus Christ. Everything we want to do that's good is by Jesus Christ. We think the most outlandish things, and we try to do them. If he didn't say you can, you can't. If he said you can, you will. And there are a number of people now on the earth who are doing some things that you wouldn't dream possible. There are different consciousnesses than ours. They get where they're going quicker. They don't bother to stop off at some of the places we stop off at. Now, you may not find this invisible man in your room tonight. If you do someday, stop in a little while and think about it. You don't have to react. You find that a spirit will never touch a human being. So the spirit's never going to worry you with touching you. Unless it's a light touch while you're asleep or something like that. And the spirit will always be there as a good sign. You may or may not receive any advice. And in my opinion, you probably won't. Whatever the spirit is there for, he knows. And he wouldn't be there if not for a purpose. Whatever the spirit is about is a good purpose. Maybe he's just willing to expose himself so that you will see him and feel the divine touch and act accordingly. But whenever you do see a spiritual being in your room or wherever you are, you'll be frightened at first, or maybe not, concerned, but he won't come near you to bother you. And just establish his presence. I don't say her presence. I've never seen a female spirit. It's a wonderful excitement because something is bound to happen from it beyond what just did happen. I want to tell you, though, that it's only possible to come into a consciousness that's been washed of hypnosis. Otherwise you'd see spirits all over the place. You can't see through the hypnosis of human brains, human thought, material thought. That hypnosis is out of the way. You find more of it. And that'll be a sign to you to say, you're not as hypnotized as you used to be. I'm frank to say, I'm thrilled to death, because the hypnosis that used to be isn't. Now, when I feel I have an obligation to fulfill what the Father said I can fulfill, every knee shall bend, there is a kingdom. We can make headway and approach it. We are promised acceptance and admittance. And we have requirements. Keeping the consciousness open and clear and honest. You'd be surprised what honesty means. And Spirit knows when you're honest. It's not what people are looking at you that you're honest. You're honest in the privacy of being in a dark room. You're honest at certain intervals when there's no one around. But you're honest. You know that this is a no-no, this is a yes-yes. You just are that way, and you're opening the door for Spirit. I think the one who has entered the Spirit, living in Spirit, is receiving all kinds of encouragement. And if you're not getting the encouragement, it's because you're not living in the Spirit. Also, if life seems sort of dull, that's not a spiritual activity, of course. Now, the spiritual body was not a prominent part of our study for a long time. We were told to have that mind that was in Christ Jesus and all kinds of things, all kinds of helps, but somehow never told me that I'm already the Christ body when I start out. The Christ, of course, is the spiritual body that I want too. And now that I know that the spiritual body is the thing that everyone wants and everyone has but doesn't know they have, well, that's a step closer than wanting what you don't have. So I'm setting it clearly. You have the spiritual body. You cannot go out and find it. It's there. That's the basis of your life. That's the reason you're going to live forever. But you can't live forever in a body which is not pure. And so you've got to realize the purity of your spiritual body. You can't say it's pure. You have to prove it. You have to prove it. This ailment isn't mine. It can't hurt me. It's not real. I have the spiritual body. You find a way to rid yourself of that which calls itself an ailment, which is foreign to your spiritual body and therefore non-existent. You'll be surprised how much power you can emanate from the knowledge that you are the spiritual body. It gives you the power to reject what is not the spiritual body. And if you retain that power long enough to stare in the eye that which is threatening you, you'll find you do have the body that God gave you. And that's what you live in. You find a way to live in it. Until you're sure of yourself, you feel that you know something. Some mighty important face-to-face obstacles to overcome. It's very important that you face them with a knowledge of their own reality. They'll seem mighty real to you. Oh, about a dozen things will be threatening, life-threatening. You've got to learn how to come up and face them. And you face them with the knowledge, this that appears to be a threat to me is threatening what isn't there. You've got to take your life out of the body you're in. Because your life is never threatened. Can you remember your life is never threatened? At times it'll seem so. The threat is hypnosis. And a life you think is being threatened, that's hypnosis too. Get inside yourself. Try to come to an understanding, a feeling of what is real and what is not. You can touch anything. Figure it's not real. Well, if that's not real, what do I do to make something take its place? Well, you see, don't impose your human will there. Don't try to substitute what you think will take its place. This is God's universe. Have some faith that what God wants to replace will remove the hypnosis and show you what's there. Always what's there, everywhere, is perfect, but you don't see it. When you say you don't see it, that doesn't mean it's not there. You don't see reality. You're living in a whole world, and not one thing in it is reality. Does that frighten you? Does it seem as if you won't be able to get anywhere? If a car runs over you, or you run over another car, the people who die in that accident aren't hurt one bit. It's almost inhuman to think so, isn't it? You've got to know these things. The self is always alive. Easter, 1993. Let's make a pledge to ourselves. I don't know how long I'll be with you teaching, but I'd like to say that So to make a date for Easter 1995. Just get ahead of ourselves. Easter 93, you learned something you may have not known, that you're going to live forever, that the reality of you can never die, that the reality of you is never sick, and yet you're going to experience a lot of sickness, a lot of fear, a lot of close to death experiences, and they're never going to be you. You will be behind it all. And it's very possible for you to establish this you. You don't always consider that you're going to stay in a state of hypnosis. Now, at the beginning of today's seminar, I told you about the I that you had to establish. And this is the I that gives you your identity realized. You must be in that state when a threat comes to you. You go to the I of your being, which is you and is not threatened. And you feel perfectly safe. This is old age coming on. That's going to happen to everyone. At 80, you start to think about, wow, gee, I can't function right. Today my this don't work, and tomorrow my that don't work. I'm losing ground. Then there has to be the other side of you. The part that can unsee all the things that are losing ground. The part that can realize, I am all there is of me, and I don't age a minute. I don't have any pain, any problems. There is an aspect of me which sees an aging, tired mortal. Well, I was that back in 1993. Lord, this is 1994. That's a million years in spirit. I can't even remember feeling old or feeling tired or... How would I look at that? Well, what spirits say, look through these spiritual eyes. And I think it's possible to look through your spiritual eyes and feel a difference, quite a difference. Even if you just feel it for a short time. Think that you're going to keep your eyes open for spirit if he pops into your room. The funny thing is that there is spirit all around you in different forms, always. If they would come out when you go like this, you could see 1,000 appear right now. And yet we fit into this atmosphere as if we own things, and as if we were the only ones here. I bet they must have a laugh sometimes. They don't even know we're here. Well, I'm not going to say goodnight until we have a final meditation, because I want to see if we can communicate with each other better now than we did at the start, which was pretty good, incidentally. What I've forgotten that you can think of? Anybody know what I've forgotten?
You said you were going to make a date for us, or a time for us to meditate together.
All right, that's it. We want to set a time to meditate together if you want to join us. The time is Friday, every Friday, at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock, standard time, whatever it is here. It'll change somewhere else, and if you're in Maui, it'll change from 12 o'clock to whatever time it is there, but this will be American. That's American too, I guess.
California time.
California time is what I meant. Thank you. And this has been going on for 9 years, by the way, and it's quite a setup, this 12 o'clock meditation. We welcome you there, and all you do is sit by wherever you are, in your living room or anywhere else. Start sharply, be ready at 12 to go. Just go quiet, and go as easily into meditation as you can. You'll find it intensifying. You'll find it breaking up certain things that are around you and giving a clearer vision of some things. It lasts 1 hour, 12 to 1. And then you can forget it for another week. Might put it on your calendar and circle Fridays. And if you go on vacation, makes no difference. If you go to the same state, it'll be the same time. If you go to another state, it'll be an hour earlier or later. So you can join, and I hope someday we have a fairly good turnout on it, although it's all invisible, and we all have this one goal, to develop this infinite harmony, become aware of the infinite harmony. And I'm so glad you reminded me of that. That's one of our most important projects, this 1 week, this 1 hour of silence on Friday, wherever you are. I hope you join it, and I'd like to see 10 more years of that, and you'll see some remarkable results that we've had when we've done it for about 9 years. With that, I hate to say goodbye. That's the trouble. I want to stay here and I can't, so I'll have to say goodbye. I can't say this has been a beautiful class to me, and I hope it's helpful to everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into our channel. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that like button below. It really helps us out. And why not share this video with your friends? Spread the word and help us reach more people. Lastly, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new video from us. Thanks for watching and see you next time.